Hello. Today I want to talk about the 2013 film The Conjuring. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Uh, it's based off of the case of with Lorraine and Ed Warren go to visit a family, the Perrin family, uh, who are played by uh, yeah Ron Livingston and Taylor and Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga play Ed and Lorraine Warren. Inspired by a true story, though I know a lot of the stuff what happened with the Warrens, their various claims, and so the books that they've either written or were written about them. One of the most notable till all this happened with the Conjuring series with Annabelle and such. Um, the most famous thing they were involved with is the Amityville horror, which the book is, or I've never read the book, but I've seen the movie and good movie. Um, and it's one of those things where it's like when you watch this film and you see things progress. Um, Obviously, when it is like based off of a true story, obviously things are going to be a bit made up. Though one thing that's interesting is Lorraine Warren, she was actually alive and had a small part in this film and was a consultant. So she was alive to see this not only be made, but also got to see the final result. Another thing is this film was directed by James Wan, who helped co-write, co-create, and directed the original Saw film. So there you go. Different film than Saw. So there you go. If you're not fond of Saw, but maybe if you're interested in that, if you hear, well, yeah, from the director of Saw and Insidious. Insidious is also a pretty good film. But yeah, if you're not sure about watching this on the basis of the director, that's all right. It's fine because it's not like Saw. I mean, it's about a family being uh, terrorized by like a demon. They investigate and they found that uh, years and years ago, where this really all began, a woman killed her 7-day-old son. And she was like a witch, and she did this for the name of Satan, then hung herself. And before she hung herself, she like put a curse on this farmhouse where anybody who moves in they will have a horrible death. And so yeah, it's it's quite intense to say the least. And Ed is very hesitant about particularly having Lorraine involved because like she's able to see things that others can't. He's somebody who's able to be there to help officiate like an exorcism if one has to be done. He can't perform one. He's not one of those who's allowed to, but he can assist like a priest. And one of these instances when they're helping an exorcism, she saw things that were horrible that she has not told him and he doesn't ask her about. And they also have a daughter, Judy. And they're like, this is an entity that will, like the family in the farmhouse, they're like, if they, the parents, like if they were to move, this demonic entity will just follow them and will continue to. And later on, it starts to feed off of the mother and really starts to mess with her. And in addition to the kids, also scaring them. One, they smell a lot of horrible things like rotting meat, though at certain points, but people thought it was like a somebody farted. And one girl, it's five daughters, so one girl feels something pull her foot, and you see her being moved on her bed, and one daughter is like sleepwalking, which that will actually play a hand into something very important later in the film. I don't want to say this and then spoil things because I know that there are people who have not seen this, and I actually have not seen these sequels. Interesting enough, and I really love this film. I really liked it ever since I saw this. I thought it was really good, very good, effective horror film. And again, true story and all. A lot of people do put into question some of the Warrens, like their methods and tactics and such, and some even question like their real motives. As time went on, they work at a college in the film, and you see them like teaching a class about like a demonology, essentially, and they show some pictures and film that they took of exorcism and various things going on that they've from various cases they conduct. And they also, in their basement of their home, they have all these items where an entity came from, like the Annabelle doll, which is also one of the most well-known, obviously, cases they've been involved with. Which of course had its own spin-off and such. So yeah, I do want to look at the other films. James Wan, I know, did the second film, and I've heard the third film wasn't as good, but the fourth film just came out this year. Obviously, I did not see it since I have not seen any of the other sequels. For me, I'm like, there's 0 point in never going into something like that blind. Especially since characters, they're there, they grow up. There could be certain things mentioned that if you haven't seen all of the entries, you're going to be kind of confused. Um, some some franchises, it's like they're like one and done, or you can watch a sequel after not seeing some of these other movies, and that doesn't matter. It means nothing. There'll be enough references that if you have seen those sequels, it's a nice bonus. But to anybody who has never seen those, it's completely fine. Um, from what I gather, it's not one of those movies, those franchises. Um, Logan, I would say, is the best example. Like if you haven't seen any of the X-Men films, or maybe the first one or two or three, but then you never saw any of them after that, and you watch Logan, it's like there's enough information there that if you've seen all of the sequels, as well as some of the films that came out, sort of rebooting and such, they kind of little moments here or there that kind of, I guess, reward you, or it's like, hey, there's a little nod to that film. May not be huge, but it's like just a little thing that's might be there, or something that's said that you might remember, or things going on. You're like, oh yeah, I remember. This was not that exactly happens, but that's what I mean. From what I've gathered, this uh, is a film franchise that once you see all these, you there is a good cohesive story. There's also another spinoff of The Nun. But yeah, I don't know if James Wan is like an executive producer on all the sequels, like he was with Leon L on all the Saw films. They didn't really have too much. Though Lee Wanell wrote the first three Saw films, and all of them, and the two of them were like executive producers to all up to 10. So I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me really if turns out that he was. But again, I've not seen these all of the films. I've seen this. Um, and the special features on this are very good. Um, relive the real life horrors of the parent family. It comes together to reflect the farmhouse that they shared with the diabolical spirits for nearly a decade. You know, Obviously in the film it's a bit more condensed, basically, because kind of have to, especially since the film is an hour and 52 minutes. Life and demonology, or real demonologists and paranormal experts from the Conjuring take you inside their life's work, into their personal cult cellar where they keep haunted and unholy relics from many of their cases, which is what I mentioned that the Warrens have in their basement, scaring the out of you. Yeah, scaring the shit out of you. Director James Wan saw in Insidious welcomes you to his world and gives you an inside look at the secrets that scare the shit out of moviegoers and time again. This is stuff that I like looking at behind the scenes stuff and interviews and things of that nature with things like this, because it really gives you a bit more appreciation for the film. Based on the true case files of the Warrens. Um, Again, they have been critiqued, criticized, what have you, of some of the things they've said that happened, as well as their methods. You know, they're recording sound, as well as they've got a film camera to record all of it. That way they can show and have evidence, and you know there's pictures and being taken and such, and bells on doors, so if they open you can hear them. Um, but yeah, this is a very good very good film with the accuracy and all. That obviously any movie that's based off of a true story, that's gonna be, some of the stuff may have happened or occurred, and some of the other stuff it's embellishments or just straight up made up for the entertainment of the movie, because sometimes what really happened is kind of boring and you don't really want to bore the audience, especially if it's like a horror film. Yeah, that's one thing that's, there's one thing for having a slow build, that's fine, but if the whole thing is boring or uninteresting, it's, you're not going to really get people really interested in what you're showing. Um, but yeah, this is a film that I've really wanted to rewatch for a while. I didn't even talk about it, and I thought, yeah, I remember last month, I'm like, I haven't watched this for a while. Probably been like a year or two since I last saw it, so still very effective. I'm not scared of stuff like this. I grew up watching a lot of true crime stuff, so things like that, actual, killers, robbers, rapists, and so on. That stuff is more frightening to me than stuff like it's like based off a true story and all. At the same time, it's like, you gotta know that stuff like this, regardless of what truly happened, because I mean, the family, they talk about this and such, so they are fairly consistent in that. But you know, again, things do get criticized and critiqued with the Warrens. Um, so yeah, it's amazing how Hollywood takes these stories, and sometimes true stories that are actually quite frightening anyway. They sometimes really embellish things when there's no point to. There's no reason to embellish and make up something when you could have just told the story outright and it would have still just been as frightening. Um, but whatever. Sometimes it comes down to the people who are making it, like writing it and or directing it. And sometimes it's from the studio. They like a script, but they want certain things in it that perhaps shouldn't be there. Again, certain filmmakers do that too. So it's not even the studio that does that. But sometimes it's certain individuals. But as a film, very good, very effective. It was critically acclaimed, made a lot of money, and everybody involved, actors, actresses, director, everything is great. Everybody did an excellent job. So, and Lorraine Warren has passed away. I believe it was 2018, 19. But yeah, she got to see this film, and I believe, and so at least one of the sequels. Um, yeah, that's really all I have to say. Good film. I do want to watch the sequels at some point, so hopefully in the near future, I might get these on Blu-ray overall. Though the newest one, maybe get that on 4K. I don't know. Just have to see when it's out of theaters and everything, and just to see what. Because sometimes they have certain versions that or editions that are really good and better. So I'll have to see what they'll have for the fourth one. But yeah, I hope you're all doing well. Hope your October is good, and that you're having a great Halloween season. If you celebrate that sort of thing, if you don't, that's all fine, all the same. But yeah, please have a great day, have a great weekend, and a great week. I'll see you all next time.